sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough. Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so Wendy Williams, she's back in the headlines. And, well, a lot of you have been asking for a deep dive into what's really going on with her health.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of articles and reports here.
Yeah, it seems like.
And it seems like everyone's trying to figure out what's true and what's not.
Right.
So let's see if we can separate fact from fiction, shall we?
Let's do it.
This BET article from just last week really got us going.
Yeah.
It's got some pretty surprising stuff in there.
Well, the BB article really focuses on the comments that Charlamagne, that God made on his radio show, The Breakfast Club.
Right.
And he claims that he spoke to Wendy over the holidays.
Yeah.
And that she sounded perfectly fine.
That's what I thought was so wild. I mean, Charlamagne's a pretty big deal in radio.
He is.
So his words definitely mean something.
They do.
But doesn't that seem to contradict everything we've been hearing about her health problems?
It's certainly a different perspective than what we saw in those legal documents last year.
Right.
Remember, those documents were pretty concerning. They use terms like cognitively impaired and legally incapacitated.
Right, and I remember that People article that broke all that down.
Right.
What does legally incapacitated even mean in this context? I remember it sounded scary.
Yeah, you're right to be concerned.
Yeah.
It means that a court decided that Wendy wasn't able to make certain decisions for herself.
Wow.
About her life and finances.
So they appointed someone to take care of her stuff.
Right. They assigned a guardian to manage her affairs.
Which means
things were really bad.
That there were significant problems.
Yeah, that's a long way from sounding perfectly fine.
It is.
How can we even make sense of these two totally different stories?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's possible that Wendy's health has improved a lot since those documents were filed.
Okay.
It's totally possible that she's gotten a lot better.
Right.
And that Charlamagne talked to her when she was doing well.
Yeah.
But remember, legal stuff like guardianship can be complicated.
Right.
And it can take a long time to change. Oh, so even if she's doing better now, the legal stuff might not reflect that yet.
Exactly. We're dealing with two different timelines here.
Okay, so we've got the legal timeline, which might be outdated.
Right.
And then her actual progress, which we don't really know about.
Yeah, and we have to remember who Charlamagne is in all of this.
True. He's not just some random guy.
No, he's not.
He and Wendy go way back.
They do. He sees her as a mentor and a friend.
Right, so what he says is important, but it might not be the whole picture.
Right, his perspective could be influenced by his loyalty to her.
Of course he wants to see her doing well.
Exactly. It's natural to focus on the positive when you care about someone.
I get that. So on one hand, we have Charlamagne saying she's great. And on the other hand, we have these legal documents saying things were pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then there were those public appearances, right? Didn't we see Wendy out and about recently?
Yes, you're right. There were a couple sightings in December.
Uh-huh.
There's a video of her outside a seafood restaurant in Florida, greeting people, and even saying, "How you doing?"
Yeah. And then there were pictures of her at her son's graduation.
Right.
I saw those. Those seem to show that she can at least go out and be around people.
Yeah.
Does that tell us anything about how she's really doing?
Well, it's tempting to try and interpret those appearances.
I know.
But we have to be careful about making big judgments.
Based on just a few little moments.
Exactly. Remember, we're only seeing a tiny part of her life.
Oh, right. It's easy to forget that we're just seeing these little snapshots.
Right.
And not like her whole day-to-day life.
And it's worth considering that Wendy and her family might be choosing what they show us.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they're trying to get back to a normal life.
Yeah.
And deciding what they want the public to see.
So maybe those appearances are a way to control the story about her health.
It's possible.
It's hard to know what to think.
It is. It shows how hard it is to understand someone's health.
Especially when it's all happening in public.
Right. We're trying to put together a puzzle, but we don't have all the pieces.
Exactly. We've got Charlamagne saying one thing, legal documents saying another.
Right.
And then these little glimpses of her in public.
It's a complicated situation, but let's try to unpack it a little more.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't talked about is what those legal documents could mean for Wendy's future.
Oh, yeah.
Especially her career.
You're right. We haven't really gotten into that yet.
No, we haven't.
That's a whole other layer to this.
It is.
What are the implications there?
Well, let's explore that next.
Oh.
We need to understand what a court-appointed guardian could mean for someone like Wendy.
Right.
Someone whose career depends on her mental abilities and public image.
Right. That's a great place to pick up next time.
I think so.
This is fascinating stuff. Thanks for breaking it down.
Of course, happy to be here. You know, it's interesting to think about how this whole legal situation could affect someone's career.
Oh, totally. Especially someone like Wendy Williams, whose career is so public.
Right. Her whole brand is built on being sharp and quick-witted and in control. So how does that work if you're under guardianship?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, if someone else is making decisions for you.
Exactly. It's a tricky situation.
It is.
Because a guardian is appointed to make decisions that are in the best interest of the person they're representing.
Right.
So in Wendy's case, that could be decisions about her money or legal stuff or even her career.
So, like, hypothetically, if Wendy wanted to go back to her talk show tomorrow,
yeah,
her guardian could say no.
It's possible. It depends on the details of the guardianship agreement.
Okay.
And how the court has decided her ability to make decisions.
So if the court said she's not capable of handling her career,
yeah,
then the guardian could actually stop her from going back.
They could?
Wow. I hadn't thought about it like that.
It's a big obstacle.
It is, especially for someone who loves their work as much as Wendy.
Exactly. And it adds another layer to everything we're seeing publicly.
Right, because we see those little glimpses of her.
Right, like at the restaurant and her son's graduation.
Yeah, and we think, oh, she must be ready to go back to her old life.
Right, but behind the scenes, there could be this whole legal battle.
That we have no idea about.
Exactly. It's like we're getting these carefully chosen snippets.
While the real story's happening behind closed doors.
Right. And that's why it's so important to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
Based on like one photo or a short video?
Exactly. We might see Wendy looking happy and healthy, but we don't know the whole context.
Right, like what her life is actually like day to day.
Exactly what kind of support she has or what challenges she's facing.
It's a good reminder that public appearances can be very deceiving.
They can, especially these days with social media.
Right. Everything is so curated.
It is. And it's easy to get caught up in the rumors and the speculation.
Oh, totally. I do it all the time.
But we have to remember that we're talking about a real person here.
This whole situation really makes you think about fame and media.
It does.
Like, imagine going through something this personal and having everyone online talking about it.
It's got to be overwhelming.
It would be for anyone, but especially for someone like Wendy, who's always been so open with her audience.
Exactly. She's always shared so much of her life.
Yeah.
But this is a whole other level of scrutiny.
It makes you wonder if there's even such a thing as privacy anymore.
Especially when you're a public figure.
Yeah, like where's the line between being curious and being respectful?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
We live in this world where information is everywhere.
Right, like everything is instantly available.
And it's easy to forget that we're talking about real people with real feelings.
I know, I've definitely been guilty of that.
It happens to everyone.
You see a headline and you click, and then suddenly you're down this rabbit hole of speculation and gossip, and you forget that there's a human being at the center of it all.
And it's important to remember that every story has multiple sides.
Oh, absolutely.
We might hear one thing from a friend, another thing from a legal document,
right,
and something else from a public appearance. The truth is probably somewhere in between.
And probably way more complicated than we can imagine.
Right, so what do we do with all this?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. We've got this puzzle with missing pieces and all these conflicting stories.
Yeah.
And we just don't know a lot of the details.
Right. Well, I think the first step is admitting that we don't know everything.
Oh.
We can't act like we have all the answers.
Right.
And we shouldn't try to diagnose someone's health based on limited information.
Especially someone as famous as Wendy. It's easy to get carried away with speculating.
It is. And the second step is shifting our focus.
Okay. How do we do that?
Instead of getting stuck in the gossip and the mystery, let's focus on what we can learn from this situation.
That's interesting. What kind of lessons are you thinking about?
Well, for one, I think it highlights how important it is to understand the legal system.
Yeah.
And how it can affect someone's personal life.
Like with the guardianship.
Exactly. It's not something we always think about, but this situation really shows us how it works.
What else?
I think it also challenges us to be more careful about the information we consume.
Especially online.
Right. We're bombarded with news and opinions from everywhere.
It's so overwhelming.
It is so. It's more important than ever to question our sources.
And consider different perspectives.
Right, and not jump to conclusions.
Right, so we've got these legal complexities and the media frenzy and all the ethical stuff.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if we can step back and look at this with a critical and compassionate eye, I think there are some important lessons here.
I agree. So we've covered the legal side of things, the media's role, and being critical about information.
Right, but this whole deep dive started because we wanted to know what's going on with Wendy's health.
Right.
Can we even answer that question after talking about all this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And honestly, I don't think we can definitively answer it.
We're not doctors.
Right, and we don't have her medical records.
And we don't know the conversation she's having with her family and friends.
Exactly. So where does that leave us?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
I think it leaves us with a sense of ambiguity.
Okay.
Which isn't always comfortable,
No.
but it's the most honest assessment we can make.
So we can speculate all we want,
Yeah.
but ultimately we just don't know.
Right. Wendy's health is her own private matter.
I guess you're right. It's tempting to try and fill in the blanks.
It is.
But sometimes the best thing we can do is just admit what we don't know.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean we can't still care about her.
Of course.
And we sure will.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can't definitively answer the question of what's going on with her health,
Yeah.
what's the takeaway? What should we be focusing on as we wrap up?
I think the takeaway is that this situation is much more complex than it seems.
Okay.
There are legal battles, personal struggles, media narratives, ethical considerations.
Wow. Is that a whirlwind?
It is, and it reminds us that when we're talking about someone's health, especially in the public eye, there's often more to the story than we can ever really understand.
That's a really good point. It's so easy to get caught up in the headlines and the gossip.
It is.
But we have to remember that we're dealing with a real person's life.
Exactly. And as for where we go from here,
Yeah.
I think it's about choosing to engage with this story in a way that's both informed and compassionate.
I like that. Informed and compassionate.
Yeah.
What does that look like in practice? How do we do that?
Well, it starts with being aware of the information we consume and the sources we trust.
Okay.
It's about questioning what we hear,
Right.
seeking out different perspectives.
And not spreading rumors or assuming things.
Exactly. It's about being critical thinkers, but also empathetic human beings.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about being informed and compassionate.
Right.
But what about the future? What might the future hold for Wendy?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
How so?
We've seen how much the media has changed in recent years.
Especially with social media.
Exactly. And the 24/7 news cycle.
It's a tough world to be a public figure.
It is, especially when you're dealing with a health crisis.
Right. So as we look ahead,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder how Wendy will handle all of this.
Will she want more privacy?
Right. Or will she be more careful about what she shares?
Those are good questions. Maybe she'll use her platform to change things.
Like advocate for mental health and privacy.
That's a possibility, and we're seeing more public figures do that,
Yeah.
using their experiences to start important conversations.
I'd love to see Wendy do that.
It would be powerful. She has a huge following.
She does.
And no matter what she chooses to do, I think her story is inspiring.
In what way?
It shows that you can achieve amazing things even when life is tough.
It gives you hope.
It does, and it makes you wonder what she'll do next.
Will she go back to TV? Will she do something totally different?
Who knows, but I wouldn't count her out.
Me neither.
Yeah.
She's strong and she's a survivor.
She is, and I think no matter what happens, her legacy is secure.
How so?
She changed daytime television, she inspired people, and she proved you can succeed on your own terms.
That's a great point. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Wendy Williams' world,
Yes.
what's the main message you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway is this life is unpredictable, fame is fleeting, but resilience, authenticity, and believing in yourself, those are the qualities that really matter.
I love that. Well said. It's easy to get lost in all the speculation about Wendy's health, but we should remember how much she's done in her career.
Oh, absolutely. Wendy Williams is a pioneer.
Totally.
She broke barriers as a woman in radio,
Uh-huh.
and then she became a huge star on daytime TV.
She really did.
And she did it all on her own terms, no apologies.
Yeah, she never held back.
Which really resonated with people.
It's true. She was never afraid to speak her mind, even if it made some people mad.
Right.
And that realness, just being herself, that's what people loved. It was like she was inviting you into her living room for a chat.
Exactly. And that's a big part of why she was so successful.
Yeah, she wasn't just like reading the news or interviewing celebrities.
No.
She was sharing her own life, her opinions.
Right, her experiences.
And she did it in a way that felt relatable, even if you didn't agree with her.
Exactly. And think about when she became famous.
Yeah.
It was right when social media was starting to take off.
Oh, that's true.
People wanted more authenticity, more connection.
Right.
She was ahead of the curve in a lot of ways.
She really was. And we should talk about her achievements outside of TV, too.
Oh, for sure.
She's a successful businesswoman. She's written books. She was even on Broadway.
Right. She's a powerhouse.
She is.
She's a testament to hard work, resilience, believing in yourself.
And that's even more powerful now, considering everything she's going through.
It is. It reminds you that you can accomplish amazing things even when life gets tough.
It's inspiring. It makes you think, what will she do next?
Right. Will she go back to television?
Will she do something completely different?
Who knows?
I have no idea. But one thing's for sure, I wouldn't underestimate Wendy Williams.
Me neither. She's a fighter.
She is.
And I think no matter what her legacy is secure.
What do you mean?
She changed daytime TV. She inspired people. She proved you can succeed on your own terms.
That's a powerful message to leave our listeners with.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Wendy Williams' world, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Life is unpredictable. Fame is fleeting, but resilience, authenticity, and believing in yourself.
Those are the things that last.
Exactly.
Well said. And for everyone listening, I hope this deep dive gave you a better understanding of Wendy Williams, her health, and her amazing career. Remember, there's always more to the story than we see, and it's up to us to be thoughtful and compassionate. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and as always, keep diving deep.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get